summoned you here for a purpose.
TransformYourGame.net.
Welcome, everyone, to what will be the first official episode of the Transform Your Game podcast. My name is Richard, and I'll be your host and moderator. I have the pleasure and privilege of the company of my three co-hosts, Kent.
Hey.
Kai.
What up?
And Joel.
Hello there.
Now, for the benefit of the viewers, and this isn't something we plan on doing regularly, we thought we'd give you guys a quick rundown of why you should care at all about our opinions as far as a competitive perspective goes. I myself was a top 8 finisher and the leader of Swiss at the end of day 1 for the Energon Invitational that happened this last December, the first one, won by Dan Arnold. Congratulations again to him. I've also won PAX South in January. I top 8'd the PPT Invitational. I top 8'd PPT Dallas. And then I won an Energon Invitational qualifier. I only really got to play in one, but I did win that one, so that's good. And that's about it for me. I believe, Kai, you also have something to weigh in on this about.
So I am the winner of the Pro Play Tour Dallas Invitational, and I did get second place at PAX South as well.
And Joel?
I was the runner-up to Kai at PPT Dallas, and the first EI qualifier that happened in Texas was down in Houston, and I went down there and I won that also. So.
And Kent, last but not least.
Yeah, I was top 8 at Origins, top 8 at Pro Play Tour Dallas, top 8 at the Pro Play Tour Championship in Orlando, top 4 in PAX South, and also helped get multi-mission gear banned.
I knew you were going to make some kind of mention of that. I literally knew as soon as we started talking. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. And if you find the input and information here valuable, you can find more strategy analysis, tournament reports, and more like it at transformyourgame.net. Guys, how's it going?
Pretty sweet.
Awesome. Can't complain. I love all the announcements that have been made for the game lately. I know PAX East is coming up and is officially sponsored by Wizards. Yeah. So that's really exciting to see more large-scale tournaments for the game. Agree on like all fronts, personally. I do think I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up a tiny bit of housekeeping before we dive into the week's spoilers. So for those of you who are interested in playing the Transformers TCG at a high level, more events like Kent mentioned, the TransformYourGame.net Player of the Year race is actually in full effect. It started with the Invitational for the Pro Play Tour in Orlando this past January. We've got a page on the site dedicated fully to the standings, and a full write-up article is in place on the site as well, written by Joel, actually. Now that's covered, shall we dive into spoilers? One more thing. An announcement today that I think is pretty significant to talk about is the fact that there will be 6 SRTs for Titans Attack. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they're doing 1 in every 30 packs?
Yeah, 1 in every 30 packs, which is really cool. Like, I remember opening up a case of Siege 1, and my very first pack was Shockwave. And then every other pack from the rest of that entire case, which is 4 boxes, no SRTs. So I welcome this addition.
Yeah, this is on the level of leap from Wave 1 to Wave 2, where we got better distribution rates as well as more SRTs. So I think this is in line with what Wizards is probably going to do if they increase it further later down the line.
Yeah, and hopefully the SRTs from this wave are better than the SRTs from Wave 2, because those were not all-stars.
I'm sure they'll be better. The one that they've already shown looks incredible, but we'll get to that later.
We will get to that. Okay, so before we start, I think I should put out the disclaimer that we'll only really be talking about spoilers that have come out in the last week or so, as of the Wednesday before the end of February. This is both from a time concern for us and the fact that we plan on revisiting everything once the full spoiler comes out. So I think we should delve into the traditional characters first. You guys cool with that?
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, so I think first up is our good friend Bludgeon, who is. Anybody want to read him out in particular?
Sure. Bludgeon is. Well, first let's get into just a little bit of lore.
I knew you were going to go lore.
Originally, he was a pretender in Generation 1, but the really cool lore part is the fact that he takes over the Decepticons after Scorponok, who had been leading them in the Generation 1 Marvel series, dies. He actually sacrifices himself to help defeat Unicron. And him and Optimus actually become really good friends as they're having to unite the Decepticons and the Autobots against Unicron. It's the only way to beat him. So once Unicron is defeated, of course, the Alliance cannot last for too long, and Bludgeon takes over as leader of the Decepticons. And this even spills over into Generation 2, where eventually Megatron gets rebuilt, and then Megatron kills Bludgeon. So,
that's quite a convoluted storyline.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm just giving you the really abbreviated version. Anyway, Bludgeon, 11 stars. He's a 4 attack, 13 health, 3 defense character with Pierce 1 and Tough 1 naturally in tank mode. He is ranged in this mode. Having Tough 1, I think, is pretty significant, especially when you have 3 defense starting. When you flip him to bot mode, he is a 6 attack, 13 health, 1 defense now. And when an enemy takes non-attack damage, it gets -1 defense until end of turn. So this guy really likes direct damage, plasma burst, one shall stand, marksmanship, all that good stuff. And thoughts from you guys?
So it's really just the bot side that I'm interested in. The tank side is, the Tough 1 is fine, but the health is not high enough for when you can just play one more star cost, or add one more star cost and just play Lord Megatron.
Okay.
And then in terms of the minus attack or minus defense, he's melee in that mode, so you have to play more range characters, which isn't exactly a problem, but that means he's not getting either the upgrade that you're playing for, that the minus defense, or not the action. But I mean, he's initiating the minus defense, so it doesn't even have to be him to attack. So
yeah, I kind of agree. I do think I like that we're keeping the theme of tanks have really high defense. The theme has been going on since Wave 1, right? I mean, base 3 defense with Tough 1 added on, like that dude is going to block a lot of damage. It is unfortunate that some of the most prevailing aggro decks towards the end of the Wave 4 format are so Pierce heavy, so I think it's really going to screw him out of a chance of being super competitively viable if those decks persist. I will say this. I actually disagree with you, Kai. I'm more interested in the alt mode than I am the bot mode. I think big characters with some amount of Pierce tacked on is a design space for characters that they have yet to explore with too much depth. But I think it's just a really awesome small upside, particularly if you just try to incorporate any black pips in your deck to stack onto it.
Yeah, the only thing to go along with the black pip plus blue pip kind of strategy with that is I would say that if you were going to use his stratagem, that those don't work very well together.
True. And we will get to the stratagem eventually. I think we have those bunched later. But I agree. I think the biggest downfall of this guy is probably just the fact that he's melee in the mode where he wants to do direct damage.
So it just feels like his alt mode is one character, and then his bot mode is a different character, and then his stratagem just makes him a completely different character. So I just don't really see the synergy in Bludgeon as a character as a whole. Like, you either play him for his alt mode or his bot mode. I don't really see you playing it because the tank side is really good for blocking, and I just go in aggressive. But it's it just feels like two to three different characters to me if you decide to play Bludgeon, which may be on purpose by design. But yeah,
to kind of bounce off that and what Joel was saying too, it feels like this character needs to be in a low flip density team, okay, where he can kind of be the star in a way, where you can flip him to whatever mode that you need, and to the stratagem that we'll get to later. Those are two very different decks. One deck you're going to want to use the stratagem, and another you definitely won't. It doesn't feel like something that you will side in like some other stratagems that are out there. Yeah.
I wanted to add that in his bot mode, in the right kind of deck, he could function very similarly to a bot that just gives a static +1 attack to all of your other bots, or in a similar way to, say, Optimus from Wave 3, giving Bold 1 just to everybody. If he's giving a static -1 to every defender every time that you play an action card, if your deck is really centered around direct damage, then he's just buffing all of your bots. You could look at it as taking away from your opponent's bots, but you could also look at it as buffing your own bots.
Interesting. I also think that the fact that on the multiple damage cards, he kind of scales exponentially in his bot mode, right? So if you are able to do marksmanship to a character as opposed to armed hovercraft, right? Armed hovercraft will deal the 1 damage if you play it on a ranged character to all my opponents, and then the one I end up attacking will lose 1 defense, so it kind of like it deals 2 damage. It's almost like that. Whereas marksmanship deals 2 damage normally, so the fact that they would lose 2 defense, right? So they would just lose the 1 defense. It doesn't scale like that. So unfortunate.
But I mean, War of Attrition, though.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Sure. All right. I apologize for getting the ruling incorrect there. Bummer. I would have been a lot more excited about him if it had stacked like that for each one. But I guess it makes sense that it doesn't.
I mean, I think it's still strong. I think you guys sold me on it, so I'll probably pull him out one day.
I want to say something else. So I actually think that there is an alternate version of deck building with this character that, because all the sides feel so different, I want to say I actually think he might be a deceptively low flip intensive character, because I think you might have a desired way you're going to play him, and then once he's there, he just stays. Kind of like Flame War. Right, Flame War is kind of a deceptively low flip intensive character because you just want her in bot mode the first time, and then you never flip her again. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that I'm picturing when it comes to this. And if it just gets to stay in alt mode and do it, that's all the better.
Cool.
All right. I say we move on to Brawn. I'll read him out. So Brawn is an Autobot. He is a 5-star truck. He's melee with 3 attack, 9 health, and 2 defense. And in his alt mode, it reads that when this attacks an enemy that is higher stars and you flip battle cards, he gets Pierce 1 until the end of the battle for each different color among battle icons you flipped. And then on his bot mode, he is 3 attack. He loses 1 defense, so he's 3 attack, 9 health, and 1 defense. He stays melee. And then he says, when this defends against an enemy that has more stars than him and you flip battle cards, he gets +1 defense until end of battle for each different color amongst battle icons you flipped. So finally we get some multicolor support.
Yeah, another card with multicolor support. I don't know. I mean, he is only 5 stars and 9 health and 2 defense is actually pretty decent for 5 stars. There might be more other bots that I would probably rather have on my team for 5 stars, but he's not bad, and I do think we'll see some limited play. On his bot side, just a side note, he does get +1 until end of battle for all the different colors that you flip, and the Pierce decks, like the one that David Burgos was running at Pro Play Tour Orlando, just laugh at that.
They do, but if you were to play him in that type of deck, since he naturally gains Pierce, on defense, your oranges, blacks, and whites, and potentially greens all can count towards defense. which can be pretty sick.
Yeah.
So something to consider. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like he works a lot better in aggro because you're basically just going to be doing more damage, guaranteed damage with his bot mode or his alt mode side, and then he can defend on his bot mode side. I mean, I really like him, so I would like to play him, but I feel like the alt mode is probably his strongest side personally.
I do think he's really good for a common. I'm just saying. So I think you're going to see a lot of him in limited to help round out teams. Joel, you got any thoughts on this guy?
Yeah, limited, he would definitely be a big deal because you're not really in control of the number and color of pips that you have. As far as his alt mode attack bonus, the Pierce 1 is not super relevant now. It might have been like 4 waves ago, but he's really small. But what are you expecting for 5 stars?
Yeah, I mean, he does have better raw stats than, say, like Powertrain, who is already pretty good.
Yeah.
The extra health. I don't know. I think we should move on to the next one. But I am actually pretty down with Braun for a 5-star.
Yeah.
So next up is Wingspan, I believe, who is, yes, a beast. Every time we get a beast, I get a little excited. I can't help myself. Also a specialist, which is an interesting combination of traits. In alt mode, he's a 3-11-2 attack, health, and defense for 8 stars. And when you flip him to his alt mode, you draw a card. On top of that, he gets +1 defense in alt mode for each card that's underneath him. And then on the backside, the bot side, he is a 4 attack, 11 health, 1 defense character, still a specialist. And when an upgrade is scrapped from him, you put it under him.
Yeah, this guy can get big really fast. He's actually on my watch list for combo possibilities, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. Kai?
I really love this card. So one of my favorite cards from Wave 4 is Swerve, and
Ooh.
and it's not even just Swerve because it's the fact that any of the upgrades that you play that scrap themselves normally just increases his defense, and Swerve. Basically, anytime you play Swerve is exponentially gaining you more advantage, and he just blocks more. So, yeah, and he also triggers if your opponent scraps your card. So you're still getting to play, or you're still getting to beef him up. So I really like him. For 8 stars too, it's pretty nice.
Yeah. How many cards do we have? Like, how many upgrades do we have that actually scrap themselves?
So off the top of my head, I know Grenade Launcher, and then in a defensive core, Evasive Maneuvers and Blast Shield is actually fairly relevant now.
Power Punch, Force Field, and Power Crystal, or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, the Crystal of Power, or the weapon armor.
Yeah.
I like that card. I want it to be good so bad.
I think it is good.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. So, I mean, 8 stars. Specialist is an interesting tag. I'm intrigued to see if we get any more specialist support. There hasn't been a ton of specialist support since we got the banning of multi-mission gear. I don't know. I'm not sure that I want to spend 8 stars on this guy, to be honest with you. I wish he had more attack. Okay. Kent, you want to read the next one?
Cool. Next one is Windsweeper. And he is the first SRC that they have revealed for all of us. And wow, a little bit of lore on this guy. Issue 48 of the original Marvel run is a flashback. And him and the other Trigger Cons are helping Megatron try to find Boltax, who holds this thing called the Underbase, which basically gives unlimited knowledge and power. And Optimus Prime and the Trigger bots end up saving him, but Optimus Prime has to kind of jettison the Underbase out into unknown space to keep it away from Megatron. But anyways, he's also part of the robot mob later in the Matrix quest. Yeah. So, anyways, this guy is awesome. He is a plane in both modes. This is the first time that we've seen this from a character who is, an alt mode while he's in bot mode as well. Yeah, pretty cool. Also ranged in both modes, of course, because he is a plane. He has 5 attack, 15 health, and 1 defense in his alt mode. When this side attacks, if you had at least 2 planes on your starting team, and this guy does count as one of them, of course, move 2 damage counters from this to the defender. Otherwise, move only 1. So it's kind of like Slipstream in that way. But gets to move 2. We go to his bot mode. Again, he is a plane in bot mode. He has 4 attack, 15 health, and now 2 defense in bot mode. And when one of your other characters attacks, you may move 1 damage counter from it to this. Thoughts on this card, guys?
Honestly, this card is hard to read. I will tell you the things I know about it. 15 health for 10 stars is a great rate. And the fact that he kind of has a pseudo heal ability on him, and the fact that he can both take damage from your other characters and move damage from himself onto defending characters, that is a really unique and clearly powerful ability. I just don't know what to play him with.
Yeah, I kind of look at this guy and I immediately think, hey, why don't we put Slipstream with him, and let's move 3 counters over when he attacks instead of just 2. Yeah, that I think energy transfer is going to be strong also in case you want more damage to go over to him. And it's just what other character do we, pair? He also has a stratagem, which we will get to later. Kai, what are your thoughts?
So this guy is actually probably my most excited out of all the spoilers thus far that we're going to be talking about, because a long time ago, me and Kent, we tried so hard to make a Slipstream deck work way back in Wave 1.
Yes.
We tried so hard, and this guy, just him and Slipstream I feel is like super obvious, and then you have 7 stars to play around with, which gives you some good options in either Skywarp or Wave 1 Skywarp with his stratagem, or Skydive and a star card in his stratagem. But yeah, he just seems super strong. Being able to move 2 damage by himself is insane.
Yeah, it's like a 4-point life swing right there. And if you have Slipstream, it's a 6-point life swing. I mean, that's just really good. Joel?
Yeah, I think not quite as obvious of a partner for him would be someone like Insecticon Scrapnel, since Scrapnel can only take 3 damage at a time. Moving damage over from Scrapnel to Windsweeper, who has a huge body of stats for only 10 stars, would give Scrapnel even more longevity. Obviously, you'd want to put another plane in there. It wouldn't be an Insecticon deck, but that's also another possibility.
I think if you played Scrapnel, you'd still have room for Slipstream.
Yeah,
that is true.
I'm going to be honest with you, I did not catch the plane in both modes thing until you mentioned it like at the outset of this, Kent. Because I wasn't looking for it, because I've never seen that before. That's such a unique thing to be tagged with a vehicle tag in both modes. I think, that might have significant value when it comes to what they are calling the hybrid pips, right? Like the plane only icons. I think that's something that we should definitely keep in mind when we're talking about this guy, right? Like Lock on Target, for example, is the first one that comes to mind. He's a plane all the time. So it's always a blue on defense form, and Bold 4 is no joke. Yeah, I think I'm really excited to try this guy. He's going to take some doing to really figure out like what he's supposed to fit with, I think. I think we should move on. And I think, as far as I know, that's all of the most recent traditional characters. I think we're onto the body mode stuff from here on out. So I think the first one we're going to talk about for bodies is actually a promo. We're going to talk about Preceptor. And that is just because I think a major reason for that is because we believe that it is just going to be that powerful of a card. But it is an Autobot. It's a specialist, a wrecker in alt mode. I think it's a wrecker in both modes. It's a 3 attack, 12 health, 2 defense character for 8 stars. You do have to pair it with a head, so it's not going to be 8 normally on the team. And when you flip to the alt mode, you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. Your opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. You put 1 into your hand and the underneath Preceptor face down. And then when you flip to the body mode, not bot mode, body mode, he has 3 base attack, 12 health, and 1 defense. He goes from being specialist in alt to being ranged in body. And he gets +1 attack for each card under him, which is something you get to put underneath him due to his alt mode ability. So, guys?
Oh man, like this guy has incredible, just an incredible ability, and you're going to see this at many, many tables when you go play in tournaments after release of Titan's Attack. I mean, he's a factor fiction on a stick just for a flip ability. And, you throw some extra paddings or sparring gear on this guy in a blue-based deck, and he's just going to get huge for a long time. It seems like he wants to be your last attacker on your team as you build him up and make his attack bigger and put some upgrades on him and such. But, yeah, we're going to see a lot of this guy.
So just to jump in on what Kent's saying right there, for those that weren't Magic players, Factor Fiction is a Magic card that reveals cards to your opponent and lets them separate it into 2 piles. So I suspect that was an extremely powerful card in Magic, and that's probably part of where the creator of this card got the idea from.
Actually, yeah, in the article that spoiled it, he talked about that being a direct influence on the ability over on Vector Sigma.
Yeah, and just to give credit where credit's due, that is Dan Arnold that we're talking about right there, the current world champion.
True. And a great, mighty, powerful card it is.
The card is insane. There's no downsides to using this card. But even if they give you, let's say, you can do piles of 0, so you can have 0 and 4, you just give them a grenade launcher
forever.
Yeah, it's forever. And then even if it's 3-1, then there's so many things that you have to learn now that this guy is going to be in the game, that he's going to be topping for a while. I can say that, because there are going to be players who don't know what to do with them, and the Preceptor play is just going to take advantage of that. And it's if you have the opportunity to play against Preceptor, do it ASAP. He will be very skill intensive on both you and your opponent. So,
yeah, Dan was talking about this is a real skill test for your opponent to look at the cards that you reveal, separate them into the proper piles, then give you the option of what you want to pick up. But yeah, crazy good.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really key to mention on him is actually that he's a specialist in his alt mode. So while I did bring that up in the summary, the vast majority of characters who are played competitively in this game right now are ranged. So what the specialist tag means for that is that he gets to wear sturdy armor, which is part of the rock, paper, scissors cycle from the combat tribes that happened in Wave 3. It gives +1 defense statically. It's a blue and a green pip, so you can pick it up. And then if it defends, you only put on a specialist, but if he defends against a ranged character, you get an additional armor. So the fact that you can put it on this guy means against the vast majority of characters in the game, you just get a static +2 armor to go on top of everything. And that means you don't even have to play like a sparring gear on him. You can play like a blue pip and be more defensive, stall until you get to abuse his flip ability a bunch of times and make him like an 11 power attacker or whatever. That I'm not sure that was an intention of Dan upon the design of the card, because I guess the Airstrike Patrol aggro deck wasn't super prevalent at that point. but it's a really, really strong point in favor of playing Perceptor a lot. Watch out. Know how he works because he's going to be everywhere. And he's the buy a box promo, right? That's how you get him?
Yep. You got to buy a box from a WPN official store.
Okay. Well, I think that's all I have to say about Perceptor for now.
Best 8-star character in the game.
So I got a question. Do you guys want to move on to Sky Shadow next, or how do you want to even classify it?
Let's do Sky Shadow.
Okay. So Sky Shadow has 2 cards that end up making it up. This is a really, really odd character in that it just it takes pieces from so many different mechanics. So he's got 2 characters that can't flip. He's got a plane and a tank that are kind of like a piecemeal combiner, the same way that like Omega Supreme was from Wave 4 or Dreadwing from Wave 2, something along those lines. The plane is a 7-star character, Decepticon, with 4 base attack, 10 health, and 2 defense, and has a static bold 2 on top of being a ranged plane as far as the tags go. So actually pretty solid stats for a 7-star, all with the bold 2 on it. And the tank is kind of a mirror of that, in that it is a ranged tank, Decepticon, 4-10-2, but it has tough 2 as its static text before you actually combine them together. And the way they combine is you play them alongside this stratagem that's 1 star. So between the 2 of them and that stratagem, it's 15 stars. And then the stratagem reads, I believe it's called Sky Shadow Sync. I'm sorry for reading so many cards here. But Sky Shadow Sync says if you begin the game with Sky Shadow Tank and Sky Shadow Plane in play, and you have an Ominous, the little head outside of the game, when one of those Sky Shadows is KO'd, you basically get to combine the Ominous from outside the game with the 2 Sky Shadow pieces that are in the game, the one that was just KO'd and the one that already exists, with all the damage that was on the Sky Shadows. And it becomes this big, giant, enormous thing that is a combiner body mode, I kid you not, with 8 attack, 20 health, and 2 defense. It's got bold 2 and tough 2, and when you combine it, you get to do 3 damage to an enemy Autobot. And if there is an enemy Autobot, don't worry about that. That means the trigger just fizzles. You don't have to deal it to your own Autobot or anything like that. But on top of that, Ominous, once you put it on this combiner in head mode, grants it Pierce 4. So it is 8 attack, Pierce 4, bold 2, tough 2 with 2 defense that also shoots something for damage once it combines. And the fact that combiners enter untapped when you do this means you get an extra attack out of it. He's also ranged. I think I covered it all. Guys, thoughts?
I'm not going to get into a long discussion about his comparison to Overlord, but he is a remold of Overlord, and Overlord is one of my favorite characters ever, and hopefully we'll see him in a future set if we do not see him in this set. To see just the plane and tank mode, to see any character that has a static bold 2 or tough 2 just naturally is so rare. So these cards are I think very valuable even on their own, even if you're not planning on combining to Sky Shadow. Sky Shadow Tank is just straight up better than Wave 2 Hot Rod.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just straight up better. And then once he combines having bold 2, tough 2, and Pierce 4, this guy is for real. He's actually my favorite character that they've shown so far, and I can't wait to dig in to playing with him.
Kai?
Yeah, just Sky Shadow Plane is similar in stats to Barrage, minus 1 health, but you get the bold 2 always, and then Sky Shadow Tank is the upgrade to Hot Rod, as you've mentioned before. So even just the pieces themselves are almost to a level of power creep insane. But the combiner himself, yeah, I really like him because having that static Pierce 4 is really strong, because anytime if you play say heavy-handed, he's going to be swinging as a 14-star, so heavy-handed will almost always trigger, and that's Pierce 8. Just
actually, Kai,
right,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but he'll be a 17-star because you count the head stars.
That is true. So he will be almost bigger than everything outside of Metroplex and Titans and the like. So yes, that further enforces my point that this guy is this guy is really, really good.
Seconded. Joel, you got any Any input here?
Yeah, so when he comes into play, like Kai's saying, he's got a lot of guaranteed damage as the combiner. He's swinging for 8. Not to be a wet blanket on all this, but for him to be the combiner, yeah, he has 20 health, but he has to at least lose 10 of it to become the combiner. So he's really an 8-10 for 15 stars. 15 stars because you can't combine it without the stratagem.
You're forgetting that once he dies, you get the head character popping off.
I didn't forget.
Ominous is no joke.
I didn't forget. I was going to say after that, like I said, it can't be all just sunshine and roses, but you get the guaranteed damage when he comes into play because Pierce 4, there's no way to stop it. I mean, okay, there's ways, but there's really no way to stop it. So there's that guaranteed damage, and then when the head pops off, well, the head has Pierce 4 also. So you're just continuing to lay the hurt with guaranteed damage.
Yeah. I think one of the secretly powerful things about this guy is that he kind of comes with 2 extra attacks attached to him. So when you combine, they combine untapped, right? So if you combine where you make them kill one of your guys when they're both tapped, you get an extra attack from the combiner. And then when the combiner gets KO'd, you get the head comes in untapped in body mode or in bot mode. So you get another attack there, and that's just a lot of extra phases and turns throughout the course of a game. You can kind of just like turn a tide that way. And it was something that I underestimated the impact of. I kind of played with a proxy test of him last week, or my weekly, and really impressive. Okay, I think we should move on to the next one, which I believe is Fortress Maximus. Kai, you haven't gotten to read one yet today, have you?
No, I have not.
You want to go ahead and give us Fortress Maximus?
All right, so Fortress Maximus is a Titan ranged in alt mode. He is 8 attack, 15 health, 2 defense, and when this defends and you flip at least white and blue, do 1 damage to the attacker, and then he has to begin with Cerberus City Commander on him in head mode, which I'll get to in a little bit. But in body mode, he is still a Titan range, 8 attack, 15 health, 2 defense, so he's the same stats on both sides. When this attacks and you flip at least orange and black, do 2 damage to each enemy. Flip this to alt mode after the battle.
Yeah.
So he just seems really good. Just like even if he doesn't live all that long, 2 damage to every enemy. That's not even including the damage that he does when he's attacking. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. He's a crazy powerful attacker. And I think that you're going to be incentivized. Like that ability on his body mode when he attacks is so powerful. I think you're going to be incentivized to really skew your deck towards being able to hit that. Right? This is on top of the fact that he is, if you're triggering that ability, that means you're swinging for at least 9 into whoever this defender is, this poor defender who is about to get thwacked, for lack of less onomatopoeia word. But he also switches back to his alt mode after the battle, which I think is really interesting because of the fact that he gets the chance to do more damage if you hit that trigger. Now, I think that you're going to be kind of incentivized. I do think that the low health in this character is going to be like the big thing that inhibits him. Still, I think this character is really sweet. I don't know how good it is playing like 1 tall essentially because you're going to be locked into so many of the stars is going to be really hard. And I know the ruling is that whatever the second head is that goes on Cerebros, you don't get the bonus from that head on Fortress Maximus. I think that also is going to be a really big piece that holds back Maximus from being as powerful as maybe he could be.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at Emissary going, wait, does he get, when they first spoiled it, does he get both the ability from Cerebros and Emissary at the same time? Because he's wearing like, basically 2 heads. And if so, this guy is busted. But turns out that he's not. So, yeah, my dreams are dashed, but I'm still going to sleeve up a deck with Fortress Maximus and give him a go.
So Cerebros gives him bold one and tough one, which is actually pretty good for triggering both of his abilities. So even if you're just playing like not even mixed, but like mainly blue skewed and matrixes and Master Battalicato and all that, all the mixed tip stuff, I think you still have a pretty good shot at triggering his body mode ability. So I think there is still a deck there. We'll just have to wait and see.
Joel?
Yeah, the way that this deck is constructed, you would have to have all 4 pips in there, or there's really kind of no point, because once he dies and the head that you had to use, which cost you another 7 stars, only activates once you have all 4 colors to go along with that. So, I mean, it really is, it's not just a mixed pip deck, it's a 4 pip deck. And, well, it's going to be 5 because you're going to play some green pips because those are a lot of really good cards.
True.
But yeah, the activations that you're going to get from Fortress Maximus are going to be helped out by the bold one, tough one that he has on him. So not only is he hitting for a whole bunch, but he's also just highly likely to get those effects off anyway.
Do you think that there's maybe a viable version of this strategy that plays, instead of Emissary, maybe a 1-star head, and you get 3 star cards? You can play like 3 Fuel Cash to help you try and trigger.
Oh yeah, easily.
Like the ability?
Definitely.
Yeah, because you can do that with Parsec, I believe is the 1-star head we know of.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could play triple. You could play more double blue pips to live longer, so that Fort Maximus can trigger more, or you can do the fuel catch, as you said, and try that.
Well, and not to spoil other cards we might talk about, but there's also other triple pip cards. At least one that's been revealed that doesn't even cost a star.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed. Well, I'm talking in addition to those, and we will get to that card. Trust me. I agree. I think Cerebros is a really interesting head, but the fact that it's 7 stars and then once it pops off, it's only kind of an okay card is a little frustrating to me because it's asking so much of you to like put in your deck. Like 6 attack for a 7-star character is pretty insane, but 8 health and 1 defense, like you're just gonna die too fast. You're a glass cannon. That's not what I want from 7 stars out of my deck. You know what I mean? You know, I don't think I have anything left to say about Fortress Maximus. Guys, any closing thoughts on that guy?
Just to say what Cerebros' effect actually is, because I don't think we've said it. So in body mode, when this battles you and you flip at least white, orange, black, and blue, you may play an upgrade from your scrap pile onto this, which isn't bad, but how likely are you to trigger that, considering that you have to do 4 pips instead of Fortress Maximus, which only requires 2 pips. So... And on top of the 8 health, which is not high enough to try and do that consistently multiple times. Yeah, it just really adds hurt to anyone who wants to play Cerebros.
It makes it more challenging, but if you play the head that comes with it, he does have focus too.
True.
That is true.
All right, well, I say we move on to Autobot Nautica. And Joel, I don't believe you've gotten a turn to read yet. Would you like to take a stab?
I'm such a good reader, I guess I really should try. Okay. Well, Autobot Nautica is a 8-star an 8-star boat specialist with 4 attack. Yep, boat with 4 attack, 10 health, 1 defense, and when this defends against a car or a truck or a tank, and you flip at least 1 blue, this gets +1 defense until end of battle for each blue you flipped. So in essence, it's getting 2 blue for every, or 2 defense for every blue, which, wow, if they're not piercing, Autobot Nautica is not dying. In body mode, 5 attack, 10 health still, obviously, 1 defense, and when it defends, you may play an armor onto her. So you're just getting to play free defense to go along with all the defense that you were getting in the other mode, although I'm not really sure why you would want to do that if you're playing a heavily blue deck. You're already getting all that defense.
I actually think I might know a case in which that might matter. So I think the big kicker here is that it's only when Nautica is defending against a car, truck, or tank. A lot of the characters who are popularly played want to be attacking in their bot mode, where they don't carry those tags. So that's going to mean that this ability on her alt mode is actually only going to trigger a small percentage of the time, even though it reads really powerfully. And then, like, the patrols are an example of characters who want to attack in their alt mode. So those are characters you might want to look at, like maybe Nautica's good against them. But the most popular patrol to be played is the airstrike patrol, which are planes. None of them are cars, trucks, or tanks. So I think the metagame is going to have to break into a specific place for Nautica to be kind of the body mode of choice, in case you couldn't see my hear my air quotes there, for your lineup. That's just my personal thought. I think that's the only situation in which you might want to flip her to the other mode, where you can kind of deploy a force field at a window where it's not interactable from your opponent.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. If it was a card that you would be playing, there would be no reason to be playing it at all if the meta wasn't cars, trucks, tanks. So you either would play this card and it would be super powerful, or you wouldn't really play this card because it's not going to do much.
You think that makes her a sideboard character?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You want to expand on that, Kent? I know I've taken a lot of the airtime here.
If cars become, a big part of the meta, or trucks or tanks, which, we see more cards every set that give power to those archetypes. So who knows? Things could skew that way. And if they do, Autobot Nautica should be in your sideboard.
Yeah, seconded here. I believe the next card, unless Kai, you have any words you want to say about Nautica, is Brainstorm is the next body mode we'll be talking about. And Brainstorm is a plane ranged Autobot for 9 stars in an alt mode. You got 4 attack, 12 health, and 2 defense. And when you flip him to this mode, you look at the top card of your deck, you get to play it if it's an upgrade. So kind of like a pseudo Major Shockwave ability. And then in body mode, he's ranged, and he goes up to having 5 attack, still 12 health, and then down to 1 defense. And when he attacks and you flip at least 1 upgrade, you get to put one of the upgrades you flipped into your hand after the battle. So like a worse version of Galaxy Prime's ability in bot mode.
Yeah, Brainstorm, one of my favorite characters from the Generation 1 line, and also from the comics. In the recent IDW comics, he's actually a double agent. He's really a Decepticon. When we get down to Arcana, you notice that she carries the Decepticon tag, which is kind of weird for some people. But if you have kept up with the comics, you know that when Brainstorm is in his robot mode with Arcana being his head, he can remove his faceplate, and on the back side of that faceplate is the Decepticon symbol. Really, really cool, really interesting character in the comics. Also, he's an inventor, much like Wheeljack. There's some really cool things happening there, and I think that that's what they did flavor-wise to give him the text that he has in body mode about getting an upgrade into your hand if you flip it after the battle.
Kai?
Yeah, for me, he just seems like, so you want to play Galaxy Optimus, but you don't want to pay the star cost. So I feel that's where you would play Brainstorm, because he does essentially the same stuff with upgrades. He just doesn't get to play them for free unless you're flipping to his alt mode, and even then that's a chance. So not super impressed with it, but I can see why it would be strong, simply because of the range tag, and playing range upgrades for free is pretty good.
Well, to go along with what Kai just said, if you're not wanting to pay the star cost for Galaxy Optimus, this is you could think of more of a customizable General Optimus, because hey, if you want to play him in bold, or if you want to play him in focus, or if you want to play him in tough, you pick whichever head you want to go with this body.
Yeah, like Emissary feels like a very natural fit for him, since you can, I can focus too and see what's on top of my deck and decide if I want to flip those cards and then get them in my hand and play them the next turn.
I wish I was as impressed with this guy as you guys seem to be. I think that if you're looking at one of the 4-star heads to put on him, like, he just pales in comparison to what you can get for 13 stars out of other characters. I mean, particularly in the attack stat. That's where I think he needs the most help. Like, the attack stat's just not enough to be a centerpiece character for your team. And if you're gonna put like the minimum star head on him, which is going to be 1, right? He'll be a 4 or 5 attacker. That's just not enough. Like, I wish that it were, but if it were enough, we would have seen more Cars decks prevalent in the metagame in Wave 4. Or, I just think you need to be attacking for larger numbers than that when you be having Pierce attached to your numbers. And I'm worried that you're spending too much to get too little out of Brainstorm. In particular, 12 health. 12 health for like 9 or 10 stars is just not, like, it's below the curve at this point. So I am not a believer in this Brainstorm. I can be proven wrong. It's happened before, but
I got you. It feels like maybe he's better in Sealed.
Oh yeah, definitely believe in Sealed. Okay, I think we move on to the next one. I actually think that's all the body modes I wanted to talk about. We do have several head characters we got to cover. We did mention Perceptor earlier, and the partner to him is Convex. Kent, you want to read off Convex for us?
Sure. Convex gives Perceptor Safeguard 3, or whoever he's attached to. Safeguard 3 when he's in head mode, and when he is in bot mode, after he pops off, he is a 4 attack, 4 health, and 0 defense with Safeguard 3 himself. He is a rare Titan Master.
He is ranged.
He is ranged, that's correct.
Which is kind of unique amongst the little guys we've seen.
Yes, and he's also the part of the buy box promo with Perceptor, so you will get him if you buy a box from the WPN store.
True. I like this guy. As far as 4-star heads go, pardon me, we've seen Convex and we've seen Flintlock, and I think that's all of them that we've seen. But between the two of them, I think Flintlock is probably the better card on the whole. But I really do like Convex because I think he gives you kind of like a defensive head to put in an aggressive deck. So if you're looking to use terminology from other card games, like a traditional mid-range shell, where you're an aggro control deck, I think that Convex really lends himself to that kind of strategy, in particular because we have a lot of cards that help you kind of recover damage, whether it be energy transfer, or maybe there's a new heal card from the most recent set, or let's say you find a way to play a body mode and Convex alongside a mercenary. You can play opportune repairs, healing the 3 and resetting the safeguard. I think all of those are really interesting options you can explore considering this guy. I still don't know where to put him quite yet. I don't think Perceptor is likely to be his best home, though.
Or of attrition, also.
True.
Yeah, it has been hinted that he probably has a better home somewhere, so well, once we figure that out, then I'm pretty sure it'll be pretty obvious from the hints that we were provided, but yeah.
Yeah.
He's a solid head, though. He's a very solid head, though. Being able to survive an attack when in bot mode is nothing to shame at.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, again, be a wet blanket on this, I guess. I haven't been super impressed with Safeguard so far in competitive play. There, especially as much direct damage as there is always floating around, and boy, just every deck seems like it has direct damage. Safeguard doesn't seem like it really is that safe of an ability to count on, especially for 4 stars. That just seems like a hefty price to pay for something that can be nullified. So
that's fair, and I think every good competitive podcast needs at least one wet blanket, Joel. So I want you to know that you're greatly appreciated in this company.
Thank you.
Glad you're the one.
I agree, though. I did mention earlier, I think Flintlock is a better card. I think the tough 3, if you're going to be a 4/4/0, I think there is less Pierce out there that really shuts off the tough from Flintlock than there is direct damage that shuts off Convex. I totally agree with you there. I do think that this is the one card, as far as the head modes go, that really intrigues me about swap heads, the stratagem. I do think this is the only one that really, really gets me thinking about that card. So that's something to consider. Okay, well, I think we should move on to the next head after that one then. Believe Tesla is next up on the docket, and I'm going to give this one over to Kai.
All right, so Tesla as a head, he gives focus 1 for 2 stars, and when he's in bot mode, he's a Titan Master Specialist, 2 health or 2 attack, 1 health, 1 defense, and he has focus 1. So fairly meager stats, but the focus is supposed to help.
Yeah, there's this weird trend. We've seen it in the last, ever since Focus got introduced, where I think the design team over at WotC believes Focus is a more powerful ability than we as a competitive community have seen it to be, right? Like when something has Focus, I feel like it's been overcosted or understated kind of across the board. And I wish that wasn't the case because Focus is a really cool ability. Some part of me wonders whether or not they think it makes games play out too much the same, right? And they're trying to prevent that. I don't know. That's not really here nor there. Talk about the card in specific. I think 2 stars is just way too much to spend on Focus 1. I think 2 stars for Focus 2 I would have been more interested in, but it looks like that's just not a rate they're willing to give us. And the bot mode on this guy is just – it's nothing. It dies to Armed Hovercraft. It dies to Energon Slingshot.
Yeah.
So on to – go ahead.
Yeah, I'm disagreeing that 1 health is just that it's almost laughable. So
well, that's a good argument, but I mean 1 health, 2 health, 3 health, does it really matter? I mean, he's going to be the last guy that you have. Usually, and any head is going to die to the first swing, regardless whether it has 1 health or 5 health, or if they play Armed Hovercraft, he was going to die anyway. It doesn't really make any difference.
I mean, but he's also not a relevant attacker, right? So some of those characters that are going to die, they're relevant attackers, so you get some extra utility out of using him as a meat shield, for lack of a better term. Tesla doesn't. He's 2 base attack with focus 1. Even if you flip 3 oranges over, let's say you flip an orange and an improvised shield, that's only 5. The guy's just not coming in for enough. So I think he doesn't add enough utility on offense or defense, and then I think it's another con that when he pops off, he's just not anything close to a relevant bot.
Talking about the focus earlier, I think the reason they overvalue it is because anything over focus 2 means you're setting up your next turn. So
That's true.
I feel like they just want to prevent as much abuse potentially. They're just they're being really cautious about focus because anytime you get focus 2 or anytime you get focus 3 or higher, it just feels almost too good.
Agree.
So
I think next up is Ominous, and Joel, I believe it is your turn.
Oh,
or as rotation goes.
All right. Well, in head mode, he is 3 stars, Pierce 4, and in bot mode, after the body mode has been KO'd, he is a Pierce 4, 2 attack, 3 life, 0 defense. So I already sort of talked about him when we were talking about Sky Shadow, because he's who comes in as the head for Sky Shadow if you've chose to play that stratagem to combine Sky Shadow. So he's a Pierce 4. Now he only has 2 attack, but likely your deck is set up to make sure that he's actually dealing 4 at least, but if not, he's dealing at least 2. So in the final throws of your deck, trying to win out over your opponent, you're getting at least a guaranteed 2 damage. So if you have Sky Shadow left and they KO him and they don't have 2 life left or more than 2 life left on their only remaining bot, then the game's over for them no matter what. I really like Ominous. I think he is super strong. Pierce 4 is obviously really very good. Pierce 4, there's very few cards that give higher Pierce than Pierce 4, and this is giving whatever bot you equip it to, attached to in head mode, as a static Pierce 4. That is just really big, and it's only three stars. It's not even the largest star cost among these heads.
Yeah, I agree. I think as far as rate goes, from the heads we've seen, this is probably the best one. I think Pierce 4 for 3 stars, just on rate, is really pretty generous. Given, if you look at, for example, there's a 4-star for Tough 3. So if the 3 major, keywords are, tough, bold, and pierce. This one clearly is above the cut when it comes to either the bold head, which is 3 stars for bold 2, which is the highest bold we've seen on a head, and then the tough 3 for 4 stars, which is the highest tough we've seen on a head. This is pierce 4 for 3. So just as far as like rate goes, it's clearly the best there. It has a couple other markers that I think are really helpful for it. Having the pierce in the actual bot mode is really relevant. Any random orange pip you flip over, even if you're a defensive deck, a bashing shield, a sparring gear, a terrifying resilience, all of that is going to contribute higher to the guaranteed damage number from this guy's attacks. And he has a really key number, which is health 3. That means a ton of the direct damage that is out there in the game is not going to kill him. No marksmanship, no sturdy javelin, photon bomb. None of those cards are going to actually get rid of Ominous altogether. So he will be a better or more effective or more guaranteed meat shield as long as your opponent isn't, flush to the gills with one shall stand, one shall fall.
Absolutely.
Love it. Sorry if we stole all the thunder, guys.
No, it's all good. This guy's great.
Yeah, he totally is. I guess I'll go next. We mentioned Parsec a little bit earlier, and Parsec is actually the only 1-star head we've got so far. In head mode, he goes bold 1 star, and then when he pops off, 2 attack, 1 health, 0 defense, and bold 1. There's another ranged headmaster or Titan Master, which is something to keep track of. But yeah, so this character is 98% the character that the Focus 1 head is for literally half the stars, and has a better tag on it. So, just saying.
Parsec is a girl. It is a she. She is a she.
She. My apologies.
But yeah, she dies to just anything. I mean, you blink at her and she's gone. But for 1 star, what do you expect?
Well, as opposed to what we were saying about Tesla not being able to do anything after he comes into play, Parsec would obviously, or at least probably, be in an offensive focus deck, and even with just the 2 attack, comes in with bold 1, and as Kent likes to say, we're going to swing for the fences, and Parsec's going to get a grenade launcher and a supercharge, and you're going to be surprised when Parsec swings for 14 or something to try to end the game.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah.
And don't forget ranged. That is a really key tag.
Yes.
If you needed something to put your sturdy javelin on late in the game, she wears it happily. Yeah, I mean, as far as 1-star heads go, this is actually better than I was expecting any of the 1-star heads to be. Personally, I don't know what you guys were expecting from these. I was kind of expecting that we would get one at common that actually did nothing and was like a 2/2/2 in the bot mode. So that was a 1-star head, so that you could play some of the like body mode characters at the minimum cost. And I thought we would get one that was minor offensive and one that was minor defensive. I think this is this is better than what I was expecting for the offensive one, and I'm really interested to see if we get like maybe a Decepticon counterpart here that is a 1-star tough 1 head. I'm pretty excited about the potential here. Ken?
Yeah, I agree.
Kai?
Same.
All right. We did mention Emissary briefly, but Kent, would you want to go ahead and read out what that Headmaster does? Or Titan Master, pardon me?
Sure. He is also ranged. Very key is obviously a Titan Master, a 4-star in head mode that grants focus 2 in bot mode. Also has focus 2 himself with 4 attack, 4 health, and 0 defense. Maybe he can help you find those black and orange pips with focus 2 to maybe seal the deal if your opponent is just struggling with the last points of life that they have.
Yeah, I'm worried. I think 4 stars is just too much to pay for this. I do think he's a much more relevant attacker once he actually pops off. And having 4 health means he's going to live through some of the direct damage, right? The fact that he's ranged is a point in his favor, but I just don't want to pay 4 stars for Focus 2 when I could literally get Bold 2 for 1 less star. you know?
Or tough 3.
Tough 3 for the same amount of stars. Like, I just don't think you're getting anywhere near the same economy or getting Pierce 4 for 3 stars, right? Like, there's just so many other options out there that I think you're just getting better rate on. This guy is part of the package you get when you buy a box, right? Like, he's part of the box pack. So you're guaranteed to have him, and I do think he's cool. I just don't know where he goes, personally. I believe that is all of the characters that we wanted to cover. Going on next, we'll probably cover stratagems, and then after that, battle cards. That concludes all the characters that we've seen up until this point, at least of the recording of this podcast. In the next part, join us as we go over the stratagems and talk the strategy behind some of the really awesome battle cards that have been previewed thus far. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in, and as always, clear eyes, flip lots, can't lose.